英雄的竞技场，玩家的寻梦地，观众朋友们，大家好！现在收看 WCA 2016世界电子竞技大赛职业预选赛 S1。
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the second series here. This is going to be Group B of the World Cyber Arena 2016 Spring StarCraft 2 Tournament. My name is Rapid. With me is Shrink, here to drop some translations and just in general hang out, talk about some StarCraft. Hope you guys are having a good day or a good night, which is most likely the case if you are anywhere in the North American continent. Then thanks for coming out and tuning in. We just saw a pretty dominant series between Isanu and Jim. Isanu taking that 2-0 in dominant fashion. Really, Jim not really accomplishing all of that too much in that series. But that takes us to Group B, where we're going to have Rushcrazy facing off against XiGua. Of course, both big names in Chinese StarCraft. XiGua probably been a little bit bigger of a name. It's been around even ever since Brood War for basically forever. And to go over their positions in Group B, in case you guys are not familiar with, you can find more information if you've ever been to Wikipedia. There's a big article on WCA Spring, so go check it out. So XiGua coming into tonight's games is 2-1 Cyan, another Protoss, so it's going to be pretty warmed up. And as far as Rushcrazy is concerned, he 2-0'd Chick, who is, like Shrink was talking about earlier, the only Terran player in WCA 2016. So he's very lonely down at the bottom of Group B 0-2 after having lost to both Cyan and Rushcrazy. So not a good time to be a Terran fan, but if you are a Chineser, you have many players that you are super thrilled to watch, and here we go. XiGua versus Rushcrazy, game number 1. This best of 3 on Central Protocol. So what's going on, Shrink? We've got the same exact matchup on opposite sides. Let's hope that we see a nice block at the front of Rushcrazy's base this time, so he does not lose his first pylon. Alright, apologies there, Shrink. I forgot to unmute you so that you could hear me. So I just went ahead and introed everything, and here we go. Now we can have that co-caster synergy, now that we can actually, see or hear each other, rather. But pretty much the exact same start that we had on our first series of the night between Jim and Isanu, but this time the races are swapping sides, and like I said, hopefully there's a good block this time.
Well, I mean, but it's still on Central Protocol. I mean, if things goes a little bit longer than say 5 minutes, you still need to expand, and the place you're going to expand is probably that 3 o'clock position, and we know how wide that place can be for 30 attacks. So
yeah, this map is not about safety. Like you got a super safe natural, which might have been the reason why Isanu's Ling drop worked so well, because you think you're pretty safe starting out. You got a big base, you just chill out there. Your natural is, I guess, okay as far as distance, but it can be a little bit difficult to defend sometimes, especially given some races like have very early aggression options, specifically. Like we saw, there's just those first 4 Lings in game number 1 did so much work. Don't expect to see quite that early of a game, but we do have Ling speed started up here. It's about halfway through, and you really do need that on this map just because it allows you to put on so much pressure early on. You can even see there's a probe here, rallying back and forth, patrolling, trying to catch this drone riding dirty, and he will delay that expansion by just a little bit, but like you said, expanding to that 3 o'clock, or I guess in this case it's 9 o'clock location for XiGua, already getting that started up at right around 30 supply. So maybe a little bit early, and that might actually be a kind of a problem with as easy as it is to put on pressure due to these wide open bases.
Yes, that's definitely true. And the thing that is especially dangerous for Rushcrazy, this spawning position that it's the closest spawning positions possible on this map, rather the longest spawning position that we see in the first series. So
right, yeah, you actually you can't spawn or laterally from each other on this map, if I'm not mistaken. So you do have to.
Yeah, not any longer, but this is still closest.
All right, well, we do have a drop being loaded up. Trying that patented ling drop, man. If it works for Ayasanu, maybe it'll work for XiGua. You have some Zerglings actually misrallied into the rest of the base.
No. It's because it's 4, so it cannot be loaded.
Right. So they were just like, hey man, you should probably watch out for this ling drop. They're going to drop some more lings in here, and this should be easier to defend thanks to higher numbers of adepts, but that is a lot of Zerglings to have running around in your base, and getting full surrounds on both adepts. That's horrible. I'm not sure if that's the end of the game right now, Shrink, but this is certainly pretty rough. Of course, there are 3 more adepts. I didn't actually see those adepts off in the natural, but yeah, that's a lot of lings to have in your base this early on.
Oh, well, I mean, if that's not the end in itself, it's probably the beginning of the end.
Well, I thought it wasn't the end in game 1, and it actually was the end because turns out making military units is a good way to defend your base. So yeah, these things just being kind of annoying. Nice warp in block to finally take care of all those Zerglings, and that is how you defend an early ling drop. XiGua not able to close out this game as quickly as his Zerg counterpart in our first series, but still look at all these lings streaming across. In the background you can see third base being thrown up by XiGua, so he's not all inning on this early ling pressure, but he is getting a lot of value out of it.
Yes, indeed. I mean, I was going to say in the first series, I mean, if ISO didn't finish the game that early, the scouting information is pretty valuable still. I mean, XiGua is pretty much, I think he's still happy with the scouting information that he got, that there's nothing crazy going on. He saw double stockade, and there'll be some
ling counterattack coming in here. Hopefully we get a chance to check it out. Spore crawlers will be important to defend this early, or I guess it's not necessarily early, but to defend against Phoenix Harass. Yeah, one of the downsides of going for that early ling drop strategy is it puts probably like 2 to 3 overlords out on the map, and can actually be a little bit difficult to defend against, just because or to defend against the Phoenixes, because once they come out, they'll be able to get several Overlord kills and can be kind of difficult. Kind of mismanaging here by Rushcrazy on these Phoenixes. He's taking a lot of hits to his Phoenixes from those Spore Crawlers that were up there, so I think he actually did lose one of them that initially lifted that queen in the first place, but either way, he's still going to get a lot of value out of these Phoenixes, sniping off a few gas drones here and there. But there is a Spore Crawler in every base, so we shouldn't see these Phoenixes be incredibly effective. Although those gas drones, man, they are feeling some struggles.
Yeah, that is definitely true. But the problem for Rushcrazy now is that I don't think it's a problem anymore, because I think he's going to go to base all in, because I was going to say that he doesn't have a third base, but I was saying
that is a lot of adepts to have out on the map right now, but it does look like he's actually setting up for a third base here. I'm not sure if this is going to be a fake or something, but that's a lot of Protoss to have out here. You've got Phoenixes to lift anything big, anything too crazy. And of course, if you look at the production tab, you can see 9 Hydralisks on the way. They're already starting to pop, and oh man, you really have to keep these Hydra numbers very small to keep these Phoenixes effective. And yeah, he's going to snipe off the first like 2-3 Hydralisks, and more Phoenixes continuing to be built, just Hydras popping one at a time. This actually could be sort of the beginning of the end. If Rushcrazy can limit this army size and in the back get up a third base, even bases versus a Zerg is pretty good for the Protoss.
Well, that's definitely true there, but I don't think Protoss has any chance to stand against even a diminished Hydra's army without any AoE damage. That I mean, speed zealots are good, but I don't think you can do it without any disruptors. Close is apparently very bad in this version already. Is that? Oh, okay. Judging from the map, it isn't. I was thinking about if that's a base kind of misplays by units. But,
yeah, no, yeah, it does actually look like it's off maybe just a little bit, but I think it's actually in the right place. So no creep spread all the way to the enemy base. It's a little bit earlier for that. So these Hydras will be a little bit slow, but like you said, you do definitely need some splash damage at this phase of the game. You've really no harassment here from the Protoss player, and Zerg, you let that grow unchecked, you're not going to have a good time. So here we go, kind of shades of the last game here. Lots of Banelings coming in from behind, trying to take out all those Zealots. The Zealots, yeah, just really not going to last very long, although these Phoenixes getting a couple of nice lifts there. The Immortals, those shields really holding strong for them. They try to take out all of those roaches up in the front. Phoenix is, man, trying to do as much work as possible. I'm just not sure if it's going to be enough. You can see they're actually having maybe energy problems. They're not actually able to lift most of these Hydralisks. Hydra's going to town. Roaches take out pretty much the entire ground army here for Rushcrazy. And those Phoenixes are actually completely useless. They just cannot accomplish anything. I see some energy on those, if I'm not mistaken, but just barely not enough. And that's going to be the third base going down a great push for XiGua.
Yeah, it's now quite game over as we saw in the first game, because Rushcrazy had some Phoenixes that did some wonderful work.
Oh, it's gonna be game over if you don't block that. Man, that's super scary on the front. Is there? Let's see. I'm questioning, like, so what's the splash damage option here? You really can't get away with no splash damage as a Protoss player, versus Zerg.
But the problem is that he's not getting the resources that
right.
He needs to produce high-tech units.
Yeah, and we're gonna have a 5-base Zerg versus a 2-base Protoss. There is a Zealot drop here into the main base. I think in the beginning it was trying to snipe the Hive, but it's not not effective, man. Sorry about that. It's going to take more than just like 4 Zealots to kill off the Zerg main base. And I mean, these Phoenixes, they're super cool. It seems pretty, nice that you can run around, kill some drones, pick up some Hydralisks. But in the end, the Zerg player is just like, all right, that's kind of annoying. And then XiGua just like runs up and pummels him, takes out an entire base. You can just see this massive stream of Zerg heading across the map as XiGua prepares for what could be a killing blow.
It could be, but XiGua is very famous for not being able to close a game when he should. I mean, I don't think he's going to have any problems of that kind in this situation, but I won't be surprised if the game is going to last for another like 10 minutes.
Well, the game lasted for precisely 0 more minutes, as that is going to be a Game 1 win for XiGua. Yeah, Zerg on this map just having so much open reign to really get as much done as possible. Those Phoenixes just really did not work out. I mean, Phoenixes versus Zerg are definitely on a timer. Like, maybe you pick up some queens, you can limit the macro if they don't have the right number of spore crawlers, or maybe they're misplaced. You can get some gas drone kills, maybe limit their tech a little bit. But in the end, the Zerg player is just going to pick up the sledgehammer and be like, look, you can't really do a whole lot. And yeah, we saw exactly that there. Hydras to defend against the Phoenixes early on, and then transition, grab some Banelings, and just pile drive the Protoss there. Game number 2 coming up here in just a second, as I don't know, man, it's gonna be kind of back up against the wall here. XiGua looking pretty good.
Yeah, and again, I don't think this is a very good strategy to go on third base against the Zerg on Central Protocol. I mean, it's just simply too difficult to defend. I
Yeah,
mean,
the other option, of course, is to expand towards the Zerg player and take the other base, but that's even more difficult to defend because you're expanding towards him, and he's already gonna have tons of creep heading your way right there anyway. So, not.
well. I was sorry to interrupt you there, but I was thinking about two base all in, but that's not a very good strategy in negative void either. But I guess that's the least bad.
Man, bring back those 4-gate days, man. Wings of Liberty. She's like, well, I've got this very advanced Protoss build. You build a couple of gateways, and then you tech in, and then you just die. Like as soon as you say the word tech in Protoss and in Wings of Liberty, you just died because 4-gate was so strong. And you really don't see that early aggression from Protoss is just not quite as popular as it is with things like maybe you go like 2 racks Reapers early on if you're Terran, try to pick up some early advantages from that kind of harass. For Zerg, we've seen Ling drops be very, very popular on Central Protocol, and they worked out really well for in both games that we've seen tonight. So this time around, I don't think we're going to see anything too crazy as we get into our second map of this second series. Is going to be not hopefully not as fast a series as we saw for game number 1.
I mean, Dust Tower should be okay for PvZ. I mean, Jim just make some really amateurish mistakes in that series, so I don't think Rushcrazy will repeat that, and I don't think XiGua is as aggressive as I is. I want to say I was, but I tend to be more aggressive for most of the time, and XiGua, as we know it, is not really that aggressive, judging from his career, his overall play style.
Right. So let's go over the builds here. XiGua actually went through. He went 3 hatch before pool. So on most maps, that would be very, very greedy, especially if there was a short rush distance. There's actually a decently short rush distance compared to maps like Central Protocol here on Dust Towers, but really no pressure possible from Protoss. So it makes a lot of sense to just go for heavy economy early and then just sort of pummel the Protoss here. So we're going to have an early scout just to make sure that you see exactly what the tech is, and currently shouldn't be too many things to worry XiGua at this point, who is going to have a decent early economic advantage. But he does have to defend that. As the famous Protoss player White Raw once said, you have to build your base and then defense it. That's the stage that we're looking for here for XiGua to see if he can maintain that 1 base lead.
Oh, that's definitely true. I mean, it turns out this game, if you lose all your buildings, that you kick out of the game.
Man, Shrink, that's some special tactics right there.
It is. But
I got to bring back my 2006 White Raw memes from way back in the day before. I would say if there's anybody watching right now who's watched StarCraft 2 ever since Wings of Liberty and remembers all those crazy old global tournaments, man, those were the days. That was some pretty good StarCraft. That being said, I would say the StarCraft 2 is probably more balanced than it's ever been right now. I mean, I started playing it again as soon as the beta came out for Wings of Liberty, and I was like, wow, this game is super cool, really excited for StarCraft 2, and then, it was all over the place as far as balance was concerned, but here, man, coming in to Legacy of the Void, it is so sick, and I love seeing, a lot of the different changes and options. Just every race just has so many options, and it's really cool to see how they all work out. 3 adepts at the front just to ward off this early Ling pressure. You don't want to get your adepts surrounded. when you run them outside the base, like we saw happen in game number 2. Too early adept kills, but trying to get this third base expand coming in here might be a little bit rough. You can already see a lot of lings starting to come out across the map just to keep this pressure on.
Well, I mean, just to pick up about the balance, actually, I really like what they do with Brew Wall, which is make everything really broken, so the game is somehow balanced.
Well, right now you're starting to see how broken these roaches are. Phoenixes do not do well against roaches, man. And there's a lot of early roach pressure. So some stalkers out, yeah, and enough pylons at the front. So if they are overcharged, that's going to be a good way to to take care of this pressure. And as is, just a few roaches going to get sniped off here. Can this amount of Phoenixes actually kill roaches? No, you got to actually kill it. It gets dropped. They have to double lift these roaches. Not the League of Legends player. They just have to kill it by lifting it twice.
I mean, that's a little bit rash, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit sloppy here. Finally, a third base going to get started here, but we should actually see a fourth base get dropped down here any moment now from XiGua, unless he just wants to 3-base all in, which I think would be a little bit hasty. So probably just want to go for the macro. Not very many Phoenixes out right now. I think Rushcrazy might have overreacted and started to build a little bit more ground army. Using Phoenixes to kill roaches, now that definitely feels bad, man. You're like, oh man, I killed one roach by hitting it for like 10-15 seconds with Phoenixes. And as is, we should see a transition anyway. Just a few gas drone sniperinos there as these Phoenixes starting to get a little annoying.
I mean, this happens, and I actually like to see two sport crawlers instead of just one in the middle. You can get two at the side of your mineral patches, which is actually better, and the math actually work out in your favor if you do make two spores and lose less drones.
Right. Yeah, I definitely think we could have done with a couple of extra spore crawlers. We're finally getting the Hydra Den up right now. The fourth base expand for XiGua is actually the north base at 9 o'clock, so that's kind of interesting. Usually you do see that base expanding towards your opponent there, which is good for Zerg, because you have creep to reinforce very quickly, so you can defend that pretty easily. But man, a lot of effective harassment here. I'm not really sure what XiGua did setting all of those roaches and lings out towards his opponent's base. They kind of just sat out there and died a lot, but it was keeping the Phoenixes busy and keeping them off of these drone kills. So still a lot of drones being killed by these Phoenixes, but that's sort of like, you can really expect to lose a lot of drones to Phoenixes early on. It's really annoying, but then you realize, hey, wait, I just have a ton more bases, and I can afford to build a crazy amount of drones. So yeah, some drone kills, but nothing, not the end of the world. And disruptor tech actually starting to come out here. There's 2 disruptors being made right now, and that is the splash damage. I think that's the first splash damage unit other than those briefly alive Archons in game number 1 that we've seen all night tonight. So definitely some stuff to keep an eye on. Zergling's just getting spread out to get some scouting information here for the Zerg. And XiGua still losing a few drones here. Needs to make sure you can still mine gas, or enough gas rather, to deal with what should be a very strong triple disruptor push out here into the middle of the map for XiGua. I think it's actually, just putting on pressure to start up his 4th base.
Yeah, I think that's what Rushcrazy planned to do. I think what you said is very important there. XiGua actually, if this game goes late enough, he might want to go something like Infestors, which costs you a lot of gas, and if you don't mine enough gas, and you are not getting enough high-tech units to fight for you, so... And XiGua is actually behind in supply, which is really interesting to me.
Yeah, I was like, how as a Zerg player you get down in supply is always a little bit rough. Oh man, Warp Prism, we're gonna get sniped. No, pulls it back just in time. A lot of Hydras here, but okay, so Hydras on creep, pretty good against disruptors as long as you're pretty good with your splits. But moving this far onto creep without an observer to kill off these creep tumors is Yeah, I'm kind of questioning this. Like, why is there's no observer here for Rushcrazy to kill off these creep tumors? He's gonna walk up on this creep and then just get like run over. Meanwhile, there's a big Ling counterattack that could possibly cancel the weakened shields there on that fourth base. Doesn't decide to commit to it. I think that's definitely a good option. Corruptor's out here just as a way of being super annoying. Speaking of super annoying, those Zealots not really accomplishing all that much. We do have a lot of Lurkers out here. Does need to burrow those, but Disruptor's the perfect counter out there. And yeah, we're just going to see some big Disruptor hits, popping a couple of Lurkers early on. These Zealots should die pretty quickly to all these Lurkers and Hydralisks, and I think that's exactly what we're seeing right here, with these Corruptors just being used to kind of deal with those Phoenixes out there. And look at those, actually, oh man, nice Lurker placement there, right above the fourth base from XiGua. Getting a little bit of value there, stopping mining at the fourth, and actually almost killing off that Nexus. The Lurkers do finally get taken down, but that Nexus is down to like, what, 500-600 HP.
Not quite that low, 200. So that's definitely a good counter attack because XiGua invested a lot of his money not into combat units but technologies.
Yeah,
So
XiGua actually expanded to a fifth base during all of this. He is still, like, it's still pretty easy to kill this guy right now. A lot of splash damage units, Archons being added to the mix, but here come the Broodlords. Actually, I didn't see those being morphed. I probably should have kept an eye on those, but yeah, you definitely have to defend those. You can see one of them getting picked off there, second one about to get picked off there. He morphed all of his Corruptors to Broodlords and didn't keep any anti-air here aside from Hydralisks, so definitely got to keep an eye on those Broodlords to defend them against all these Phoenixes. He's lost a couple already. Some nice splash hits from those Disruptors, and these Lurkers once again getting a lot of probe kills. He killed 12 probes with just the second two Lurkers. Man, those guys are MVP Lurkers, making it a pretty big situation. Now, oh, some nice Disruptor hits again, killing off those Broodlings, and actually dealing a lot of damage here to those Disruptors just in general, but the push continues, looking to set up for a flank here with some Zerglings off to behind, and this might, here we go, we got those Disruptors off the back, they're gonna get surrounded by those Zerglings, 2 Disruptor kills just off of those Zerglings. Great situation to have those Disruptors start to get sniped out there. We are gonna see some Hydras coming in from behind, but just not a lot of Zerg out here on the map. You see Rushcrazy with a 20, now a 30 supply lead, some great Disruptor hits to stop this aggression from behind, and with enough Archons, well, are those going to be enough Archons to clear things out? No. Archons will go down there, and this actually might be defensible. Some Broodlords out, but man, this game is actually pretty crazy. Rushcrazy actually got up to, what is it, like a 30-40 supply lead, but then he lost his entire advantage when he had all of his Disruptors sniped off there. He lost a couple of Archons there too, and even though XiGua is not mining off of his fifth base, he's in a decent economic position, and we should see him able to remax here pretty quickly. He has no bank though, what to speak of, and Rushcrazy, he's the one actually banking things up here, as he is still on four bases, sitting pretty right now, but should need to see an expand coming out from him here in the near future.
Yeah, I think there was some serious mistakes made by XiGua that you really shouldn't lose your Broodlord to Phoenixes. You can control it with the position needed, and you
wait, what is that Disruptor doing? Okay, free Disruptors, you get a Disruptor, and you get a Disruptor, and more Disruptor shots coming off. All those are actually pretty decent hits, catching 3-4 Hydras as they come out across the map. Once again, the creep spread is pretty low, and as great as Archon splash damage is, gonna lose another Archon. So man, this game's so back and forth. XiGua, like we said, remaxing pretty quickly. Although you're not gonna stay maxed that with strats like that. Pushing out onto the map. Need to get some creep spread up there. Hydras are so slow if you don't have that creep spread up there. But
free Tempest.
Yeah, I was gonna say free Tempest, man. We're getting free Archons, free Disruptors, man. So some good amount of Phoenixes here, but oh my gosh, look at those Disruptor hits. Hit so many Hydralisks. We're starting to see some transfuses come out here as these Tempests. Man, those things only hit one unit at a time. It's gonna be the slowest Tempest kills, and of course with enough Corruptors there to deal that versus massive air unit damage. You're just not gonna be able to keep these Tempests alive. I don't know if there's enough Disruptors. Disruptors versus Broodlords, man, does not feel super good, Shrink. We're gonna have a lot of those used to kill off these queens, but they can't even, not even all the Disruptors there can kill off all these queens. The Broodlings just getting so much work done here. Enough units back at home to defend against these Zealot counterattacks, and here comes the big push outside the base. Lots of Zealots there to kill off everything. The Disruptors just kind of running for the hills. This is a Zealot Disruptor army here for Rushcrazy. He's gonna lose his fifth base immediately. Already lost his fourth, and there is XiGua picking up game 2 victory, and there it is, 2 zeros. It's a good night to be, or 2 zeros. It's a good night to be a Zerg player.
Well, I mean, the Zerg player is definitely stronger than the opponents to begin with, so I'm not too sad about that. I mean, there are better products out there who can beat Zerg players in upcoming match in this tournament. So, but that's for another day. As for the game we just saw, I think Rushcrazy's micro is kind of problematic that he didn't get his reinforcement on time. So you might be looking into that in practice and in future matches, that actually he could finish XiGua like 10 minutes before the game ended in his loss. So so basically XiGua just went full greed and never got punished enough in both games actually. That Rushcrazy just, he's getting greedy, let's go onto attack, but he forgot his reinforcement, and it turns out one battalion is not enough.
Right, and I didn't point it out during that last game, but there's also a big upgrades discrepancy. You had 2-2 being finished there for Zerg Ground Army there at the end, which of course does, those melee attacks do actually help out the little Broodlings as well. So it's sort of like you build air, but you still benefit from the ground upgrades, and those really, really hit hard. So it's not just the macro kicking in for XiGua, but also the upgrades there at the end, just really, really overwhelming. A little bit late on the third and then the fourth, and just never able to catch up economically. Rushcrazy had a pretty strong push there towards the middle of that last game, but he wound up losing a lot of his Disruptors, and he didn't read the tech switch into Broodlords fast enough, and wound up getting taken out there. 2 zeros, like we said, on the night. A lot of wins for Zerg, and let me see. Okay, so as far as StarCraft goes, that is going to be it for tonight. But if you want to keep an eye on more World Cyber Arena StarCraft action, you can, of course. It was a great wiki article there over on Liquipedia, so definitely go check that one out. We still have the ends of the groups being picked up here as Jim faces off against Tudming. Should maybe a slight advantage for Tudming. We'll see. Jim can maybe pick things up.
Yeah, but that's not very consequential there. Anyway, that Jim is already out and Tudming is already in.
You're right.
So,
yeah, you still have to practice hard to show good games, Shrink. That's what's really most important. You gotta show good games. And here we're starting to see where things that go from bad to worse in a couple of different spots here. This is going to be from our second series, of course. These early link drops, man, so effective on Central Protocol. Just running around, keeping the Protoss occupied. When you're spending your time killing these lings, you're not putting on pressure, you're not pushing out, you're not doing a whole lot of stuff, and a lot of probe kills early here, and just being forced to pull probes, not Not a good way to win this game. Baneling's coming in here, and even with all of these Phoenixes, just not very effective. You even saw at the end of this fight, Phoenixes ran out of energy and couldn't do anything to stop the Zerg army on the ground. So, yeah, like we said, a great night for Zerg players. XiGua picking up that 2-0. In, I think it's about 4 days from now, we're going to have Jim versus Tudming and XiGua versus Chick. Although that's a pretty similar situation, as Chick has not had a great showing in his group. He is out of there, and XiGua, XiGua has advanced with his win tonight over Rushcrazy. So, finishing off groups A and B, and then we move into the playoffs. A lot of money on the line for this spring season of World Cyber Arena. I think there's a total of 100,000 yuan, which is about 15,000 bucks. Pretty good for a season of StarCraft here in China, especially considering there's only 8 players. So that's a pretty good way to split up the money. And yeah, just finishing up the group stages here in about 4 days for WCA 2016 Spring. Looking forward to those games and getting into the playoffs, I believe about a week after that.
Yeah, and in the meantime, that we are going to have other games. We will have, I don't know, we have some Warcraft and Counter-Strike just before the StarCraft started some moments ago, and let's see what we have tomorrow.
Oh man, disgusting disruptor hits, but yeah, what's going on tomorrow? World Cyber Arena. There's a lot going on there.
And it turns out nothing is going on tomorrow. We will have what's this game called? It's the game called Caliber of something. Caliber of Heroes. That's a Chinese game that nobody will watch. We have Dota 2 on the weekend. We have we always have Caliber of Heroes on the weekend, and we'll be back with StarCraft
in exactly 4 days from now. Yeah, so it'll be Monday. Make sure to come back. Big thanks to Shrink for helping me out with the translations and making sure that we have as much info as possible. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you liked the casting or you have any feedback, make sure to let us know. Hit us up on Twitter @ShrinkZX.